What's up, YouTube? It's your boy, the Second Son here, and as you may have noticed, it looks kind of different than how it usually does when I set up and do YouTube videos, and that's because I went and bought myself a new mic and decided to sort of do a little bit of a renovation on my YouTube setup. And I think I really like the way this is. I was gonna mess around and try to like put the camera at different angles and see which one fits right for me, but I like this setup a lot. So anyways, this is just for me to have a good consistent YouTube setup so that I can actually like take YouTube and sort of being a YouTube content creator seriously, not only to document myself and my progress as a filmmaker, but to provide a little bit of value and share all the knowledge that I gain in my journey, and hopefully it'll help other people, or at the very least inspire other people to, go out and fulfill their own creative passions. So I originally wanted this video to be about a cool lighting setup that I discovered. I had this really cool idea of a moody interior night scene, and I was gonna set it up really well. I was gonna set my lights up and I was gonna set my camera up so I could document how I was setting up these lights, and it looked really, really good in my mind. But then the time came to shoot it and set up the lights, and the image completely fell apart. It didn't look anything like how I thought it would look in my head, and it kind of bummed me out. And I mean, suffice to say, I pretty much failed. So instead of talking about that really cool interior moody night light setup that I wanted to do, I want to talk about why it's important as a filmmaker to embrace failure. I don't know about you, but throughout my journey as a filmmaker, I have failed a lot. And most of that probably has to do with the fact that I'm a slow learner, but that's besides the point. I've failed quite a bit. I've messed up camera settings that have completely ruined the videos that I've been working on. I have failed in how I've executed my editing. I failed in the way I've color graded. I failed in the way I've composed shots. And most painful of all, even when I felt like I did everything right, or as right as I possibly could do, the image still turns out awful, the video still turns out awful, and I feel like an even bigger failure that way. But through all of that, I think one thing that I've really learned in the past year that's helped me grow as a filmmaker and sort of overcome that concept of failure is that failure, at least for a filmmaker, doesn't really exist. There's a scene in Naruto Shippuden, which is my favorite anime of all time, in which Naruto is standing at a waterfall, and across from him is the evil version of himself. It's the physical representation of all his anger and his guilt and his rage and his insecurities, and they're standing in a face-off, and it looks like they're about to fight. And so the evil version of Naruto charges at him, and instead of fighting, Naruto embraces him in a hug, which actually catches evil Naruto by surprise and ultimately makes him disappear. I know like it's cliche and nerdy, but that's like the most perfect visual representation of what it's like to embrace failure as a filmmaker that I could possibly think of. And it's also one of the most perfect examples for why I think it's absolutely important to embrace failure as a filmmaker, because once you do, you kind of let go of the fear of messing up and thus allow yourself to be free as a creative and allow yourself to try new things and see what works and see what doesn't, and just like go with the flow and figure it out as you go along. And I think that's something that is so special to filmmaking. And it allows you to be as creative as you possibly can until ultimately the concept of failure no longer really exists to you in the first place. And I think that right there, that mind state of failure no longer existing, is the perfect place to be in, not only as a filmmaker, but just as an artist in general. And I think one of the main benefits of no longer recognizing failure in your filmmaking is that you also free yourself from this toxic idea that everything you make has to be better than your last, which is completely divorced from reality, because that's not how any of this works, right? There's no rule book that states that everything you make has to be better than the last thing you make. Humans are not linear beings by nature, and so our experiences, what we learn, what we do, and most importantly, what we create are not linear. And I think allowing yourself to embrace failure to a point where it no longer exists to you at all also allows you to understand that on an intrinsic level, that what you make is not defined by binary concepts such as success or failure. And so with that being said, I take back what I said in the beginning of the video. I've made a lot of creative decisions that I'm not proud of. I have a lot of videos that I'm not especially proud of. I've done a lot of things in my journey of filmmaking that I would probably never do again, but that doesn't mean any of those things were failures or any of those videos were failures. And that doesn't mean that I failed. Every single video, short film, client project, or YouTube video that I've ever made or have been a part of, I have learned from. And that simple act of learning in and of itself could never be considered failure, right? Because regardless, I've always progressed. So that's a little bit of the wisdom that I wanted to impart on you, that failure doesn't really exist in filmmaking. You know, if you take one thing away from this video, it's that go out there and shoot whatever you want and literally try everything, because you're gonna shoot videos that you hate, you're gonna edit videos that you hate, you're gonna color grade videos that you hate. But if you go out there and try everything without the fear of failure weighing you down, I promise you will learn far more than you ever could by trying to play things safe. If you have enjoyed this video or enjoyed my very nice speaking voice, please consider liking and subscribing. Like I said, I just want to share my journey as a filmmaker with the rest of the world, and hopefully the people who watch this get some value out of it. So if you have got any bit of value out of it, then feel free to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.